have another Ouija board story time. I highly suggest you put your AirPods on or headphones, whatever you have. I have no business filming this in my house, but the car was way too hot and I just couldn't bear it. This story was submitted by Maria. I went ahead and tagged her down below. So when Maria was about 12 years old, her and her sister used to play with a homemade Ouija board. Her main purpose of doing this was for her to connect with her grandfather who had passed away. Maria never got to meet him, so she thought what better way to get to know him than contacting him through a Ouija board. As time went on, the Ouija board became an obsession for Maria and her sister. For whatever reason, they could not stop playing with it. They just always felt the need to constantly be on the board. They soon realized that the person they had contacted was not her grandfather, that it was in fact a D word. They actually found out the name of this D word, which I'll put right here. Don't ever say this word out loud, trust me. He is known as one of the most controlling D words in Ouija board history. But back to the story. One night, Maria and her sister were playing with the board and they had a picture of her grandfather, right next to them. But out of nowhere, Maria felt a hand on her back. She quickly got excited and said, "We did it, we finally contacted Grandpa," not realizing that it was actually putting his hand on her back. Later that night, after Maria went to bed, she got woken up by this D word jumping on top of her and trying to choke her. She woke up sweating and crying. She went and woke her sister up and her sister did her best to try to calm her down. The very next day, Maria went to her grandmother's house and took the homemade Ouija board with her. As soon as she got to her grandmother's house, she dug a hole in the backyard and buried the Ouija board, hoping that would be the end of it. But she was wrong. 1 week after she did this, her parents came home crying, telling her that the grandmother had passed away in her sleep due to a Maria was stunned when she heard the news and blamed herself because had she not wanted to contact her grandfather, none of this would have happened. They ended up laying her grandmother to rest and did not perform an autopsy due to the fact that she was already of age. I mean, she was 88 years old. Regardless of this, Maria states that her grandmother was extremely healthy for her age. After the funeral, Maria tried to kind of put it in the back of her head until she went to her grandmother's room and found the Ouija board she had buried in the backyard under her grandmother's bed.
16-year-old girl wanted to know if her boyfriend was cheating on her, so she bought a Ouija board. Yeah, you heard that right, and just so you know, this story gets crazier. So this girl brings the Ouija board home and plays with it by herself. The first question she asks the Ouija board is, "Do you want to play with me?" In which the Ouija board responds, yes. She said she had suspicions of her boyfriend cheating on her and she wanted to know the truth, so she asked the Ouija board, "Is my boyfriend cheating on me?" To which the Ouija board replied, yes. She then asked the Ouija board, "Do you know if this girl has a phone number?" To which, of course, the Ouija board replied, yes. She asked the Ouija board if he can give her the girl's number, and it starts giving her a phone number, which she starts writing down on a piece of paper. So after writing down this phone number, she decides to ask the Ouija board if it knows the girl's name, and it gave her the name of Nayeli Ortiz. She immediately leaves the Ouija board, goes to get her phone, and call the number. When she calls, a man answers, and she asks if she can speak with Nayeli Ortiz. The man stays a little quiet, and he's like, yes, but what is this about? And the girl's like, "Oh, I'm just a friend. Can I just speak with her?" To which the man stays quiet on the phone again and says, "Well, here's the thing. There is a girl named Nayeli Ortiz here, but she's 2 years old, so how can she have a friend?" So after that, the girl's realizing that the Nayeli Ortiz the guy's talking about is 2 years old and not another 16-year-old girl. She apologizes and gets off the phone immediately. So she goes back to the Ouija board and asks why it would give her a name of a 2-year-old girl and not another 16-year-old girl that her boyfriend's cheating on her with. The Ouija board responds, "That little girl is going to die." In which she says, why? Why is she going to die? And the Ouija board spells out, "I'm going to take her." So at this point, the girl's like, "No, stop playing with me, you're scaring me," and decides to stop playing the Ouija board. So she stopped playing the Ouija board. The following day, she gets very curious and she still has the phone number. So she decides to call. So she calls the number, the same guy answers, and she asks to speak with Nayeli Ortiz. Except this time the guy cussed her out and told her how insensitive it is and how rude it is for her to be asking about his daughter when she had just died that morning. and he hung up on her. So after that, she just couldn't believe that happened. Like, the Ouija board said the girl was gonna die. The girl actually dies, and she just thinks it's a dream. Like, this couldn't have happened to her. So at this point, years have passed, and she's still in disbelief that this could have happened to her and the way it happened to her. So she gets curious again, and she wants to go look for the phone number that's in her wallet so that she can call again and maybe get more information this time. Except for that phone number that's on a piece of paper is no longer in her wallet, and she could never find it again. At this point, she still had the Ouija board, and she hid it under her bed, and she claims that every time they would clean or something, that Ouija board would reappear like in the middle of her bedroom, almost like it wanted her to play with it again. It got so bad that the dad ended up burning that Ouija board, and she mentions buying another one. She bought another one because she wanted to continue to play with it. I don't know, man. I feel like I would have just contacted one of my best friends, would have given me all that information I needed to know if my boyfriend was cheating on me or not. Also, she didn't even give us an update if her boyfriend was cheating on her or not. And that's how it ends, basically. I don't know what to make of it, because I feel like that shit is scary, and if anything, that happening would make me not want to play with the Ouija board again. By the way, this story was originally in Spanish, and it's in one of those podcasts where people can call in and tell them their scary story. So if I find the original creator, I will tag them in the caption, because I don't think where I saw it is the original person, like the original podcast people. But if I do find it, it'll be in the comments. But what the hell do you guys think about this story?
Ouija board rules you should never break. Number 1, never use one in your home. When you use a Ouija board, you are essentially opening a spiritual door. When you open a door, you don't get to decide what comes through. So if you're doing this in your home, you just opened a door for something to be able to come into your home. Rule number 2, if your planchette starts counting down the numbers on the board, you need to immediately move it to goodbye and close out the board properly, because whatever you're contacting is attempting to come through the board, which means it's a relatively strong and most likely demonic spirit, and it is trying to come into your world. Number 3, challenging an entity to show itself or show proof of its existence. First of all, you don't know who you're talking to, and you just gave that thing an invitation. Second of all, anything strong enough to mess with your lights or move things around is typically a malevolent, aka demon, entity. Number 4, if your planchette starts making the figure 8, immediately go to goodbye and close the board out properly. You are 100% talking to a demon. And number 5, to add on to the figure 8 rule, a very famous demon that really loves to make the figure 8. His name is, I will not say it, but he typically will start making the figure 8 and start spelling out his many names. He likes aliases so that he can manipulate you. It can be Z-O-Z-O, Z-A-Z-A, and even abacus or mama. So if your board starts spelling any of these things, close it out quickly. Some people weren't able to, and this thing wreaked havoc in their life.
This next video speaks for itself. We can see 3 people who appear to be friends using what looks to be a Ouija board. Out of all paranormal videos, those involving Ouija boards often show footage of a session that goes wrong. That being said, this next video is no exception. This is what was caught. A stuffed toy moves on its own, but it seems that no one had noticed it. That is until later in the video when someone looks over. Whether real or not, viewers believe that it's best to never use a Ouija board, as most videos show that something goes wrong. But of course, what do you think?
This happened when my wife and I played with the Ouija board.
I'm done. Fuck that shit.
So we have been here for quite a while, and I just decided to like film up a little bit. So here I have this little ball here, where we're gonna have it. We're gonna ask questions so that way it can see if it can try to move it. So there has been crazy activities happening, guys. Crazy activities. So they just continue asking, right? Ready, honey?
Yeah.
This has been wild. So if you're here in the room, please give us a sign by moving something, please. Or blow the candle, move that ball over there. Or also, you can also move this as well. Communication through there, please. Show yourself by doing something happen, like make something happen that scares us, everybody, that like literally puts us on our
What the hell?
Baby, don't leave the fucking board.
Baby.
Don't leave the fucking board.
How am I supposed to not leave the fucking board?
You're not supposed to leave the board. You know what people been saying. Stop playing with me, woman. Here. All right. Well, guys, it has been crazy activities happening today. So, you ready?
Yes.
What was that?
Come on.
Okay, so can you show yourself? Can you actually? Thank you for moving the ball, by the way. But can you actually start moving things? Like communicate a little bit with us, like through this board. Is there any possible way that you could probably communicate?
Oh my god.
Oh shit,
Nope.
baby.
No, I'm done. Fuck that shit.
This true scary story has a massive trigger warning, and when I say massive, I mean the biggest trigger warning I have given you guys yet. This is also only for 18 years and older. If you cannot deal with DV or any type of V at all, then please scroll past this. And by the way, this is exactly why you should not play with Ouija boards. I also want to take this time to remind you to subscribe to the link is in the bio. I tell stories on there that I do not tell on here every few days, so watch out for that. Also, if you want to send me your true scary story so I can recount it on here, my email is in my bio. It's kaisaspooky@gmail.com. Okay, let's get started. So this submitter's name was Sarah, and Sarah was born in the 80s in the state of Virginia. In the state of Virginia in the 80s, you are not allowed to go to daycare unless you were potty trained. And at the time, she was 6 weeks old, so she obviously was not potty trained yet. So her parents both worked, and so they had to find someone to take her in. Well, her mom's sister had a best friend named Gloria, and Gloria had a little daycare at her house, and she took care of kids, and she was highly recommended because she was really good to these kids. So that is where they decided to take Sarah. Now, Sarah was really well taken care of. Gloria was great to her. Every single time her parents picked her up, she was happy, healthy. She was just great. They loved her. The only weird thing that they thought about the situation is they didn't really like her husband, Tim. They said that he was a little off. He was a little quiet, quirky, but they thought that maybe he was just like quiet, just a quiet person. So they kind of ignored it. And they ended up getting really close to Gloria because Sarah's mom's sister was close to her. So those three couples started hanging out a lot. Sarah's parents, her aunt and uncle, and Gloria and Tim. So these three couples are hanging out a lot for about a month or two. And one day, Tim suggests that everybody plays with a Ouija board. And Sarah's mom at the time, she told me had not found God yet, decided that, yeah, this would be a fun idea. Let's all do it. So they all started playing with the Ouija board. They did it about 2 or 3 times and nothing really happened until one day Gloria comes to Sarah's mom and she says to her, listen, something really weird is going on. Tim is playing with this Ouija board every single night all by himself. Like, he is sitting in our room alone playing with this Ouija board, and he's telling me that he's talking to some alien. And she says he also told me that the alien's name is Rodentalk. That is what the Ouija board has told him. And Rodentalk wants to show himself to Tim, and he wants to do it on top of a mountaintop. So they decide that they're going to go to this mountaintop so that Rodentalk can show himself to Tim, and the others want to see it as well. So they actually ask
Sarah's mom if she can babysit all of the kids while they go and do this. So they go and they do this. They come back and they say nothing happened. Now, even though they didn't see anything that night, I believe that something did present itself. They just did not see it, because this is the start of a nightmare. So although nothing presented itself, Tim is still obsessed with this Ouija board, and it's all he does every single day. He just sits in his room and he plays with the Ouija board by himself. One day, Sarah's mom goes to drop her off to Gloria's house so that she can get babysat. Gloria comes to the door, she opens the door, and she does not look well. And she says to Sarah's mom, listen, I am so sorry, but you are going to have to find a different babysitter because I have to get a job. At the time, she did not have a job, so she was at the house with Tim all day. Not sure what their situation was, but she didn't have a job. She said, I need to get my kids out of here. I need to get out of here. There is something very wrong with him. All he does all day long is sits in the corner and plays with this Ouija board, and it's starting to become alarming. So I'm very sorry, but I can't watch Sarah anymore. And although Sarah's mom is upset about this because she needs to find a new babysitter, she's also really concerned for her friend Gloria because they have now become close. It's important to note that Tim and Gloria had 3 kids. They had 2 biological children, one 9-year-old son and one 5-year-old daughter. They also had a 7-year-old adopted son. So remember that. After Gloria tells Sarah's mom that she can't watch her anymore, Sarah's mom reaches out to her and is like, listen, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Tell me what happened. Like, is there anything that I can do for you? And Gloria tells her something chilling. She tells Sarah's mom that one day she comes inside and she finds Tim in the corner facing the wall, shivering, crying, snot pouring out of his nose. He is absolutely petrified and whimpering like a child. And Gloria is like, what is wrong with you? What is going on? Like, are you good? Then looks over in the corner and there's just one shirt hanging up, just one random shirt. It's a red shirt and it's hanging up in the corner. She looks at the shirt, she looks at him, and she said, what is going on? And he goes, that shirt is possessed. That shirt is evil. At this point, Gloria is like, okay, we are done with this. You are done playing with the Ouija board. You are going to the doctor. You need to be put on medication. This is absolutely insane. So she takes him to the doctor, and of course he refuses to be on medication. So fast forward later on, it's fall now, and Gloria gets a secretary job, and her secretary job is only during school hours, so while her kids are in school. And one day she is at her job, and normally she takes her lunch break at the same time every single day, but a woman had come up to her and asked her if she could switch her and she could take her lunch break 30 minutes earlier and she could take hers 30 minutes later. So Gloria agrees. But while Gloria is gone, Tim calls the office and he says, you need to get home now. I brought the kids home from school. They aren't feeling well. Get home quickly. Well, she obviously wasn't there, and this was the 80s where no cell phones existed. So she didn't get the message until she got back to the office. So she's freaking out at this point, and she's like, oh my God, like, what's wrong with my kids? And she rushes home. And this is where I'm going to give you the trigger warning again. Please do not watch this if you are sensitive, because this is gruesome. What Gloria walked into, a mother should never, no one should ever have to experience this ever. Every single person in the house had been unalived, the children and Tim. I'm going to spare you the nitty-gritty details on here. I might do it on my YouTube. It's very hard to hear. It's hard to tell, honestly, but I'll give you some of them. Basically, a shiny object was used in order to first take the life of the youngest daughter. And the same thing with the 2 boys. The only thing is that the hearts were out, and he took a bite out of all of the hearts. And the shirt that he was wearing, you guessed it, was the red shirt that was hanging up. Then did something to himself that a coroner saw and actually quit after 42 years of being a coroner because of this situation. He himself 6 times in the to put it in and take it out and then do that 6 times, that's not humanly possible. This is so heart-wrenching. They actually saw Gloria about 35 years later, and like Sarah and her mom did, at a McDonald's, and as soon as they saw her, she dropped to the ground, started crying. This is 30 years later, mind you, and screamed, he took my babies! He took my babies! That just almost made me cry. They actually had to take her to the hospital. They had to call an ambulance that day, and that was 35 years later. So this poor woman, I can't even fathom. I guess that also Sarah and her mom were driving like past houses one day, and Sarah had no idea what house it was, and she looked over at a house as they were driving past, and she looks at her mom and she goes, something is radiating off that house and it is not good. Like, that house is scary. And her mom goes, that's the house. That is the house that happened in. And she had no idea. Let me know what you guys think happened in the comments. Do you think that he was just mentally ill, or do you think that like something actually possessed him, that there's something seriously wrong with him? Because I don't know. Either way, this story was the worst story I've ever heard in my entire life. So I'm sorry if this was too much for you guys. You guys can always be honest with me and let me know in the comments. It will not hurt my feelings. I want to make sure that you guys feel safe watching my stories and comfortable. And if this was just too much, please let me know, and then I won't even put the longer version on my. As always, you guys are so important to me. You mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Sarah will be reading these comments, so drop any comments that you want to ask her, any questions or anything like that. She will be reading them. Other than that, I hope you guys have an incredible night. I am so sorry if this ruined your night. Normally I say have a spooky night. Tonight I'm just gonna say a prayer for this woman, because she needs all the prayer she can get, even to this day, I am sure. I will also not be promoting anything in this video because it is not appropriate. So I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.
Story time as to why you should never play with the Ouija board. So Nate has an identical twin brother named Caden. Caden has a stutter. This fact will be very important later in the story. Nate and Caden grew up in a very strict Christian household. They were never allowed to watch any scary movies. The only content they could ever watch was Christian based. About 2 to 3 years ago, they started to rebel and started to get really into the paranormal. They would watch scary movies every night and would go ghost hunting, you name it, they were into it. Everything was going okay until they started looking up the Ouija board and started making plans to purchase one. Being that their parents would never be okay with it, they decided to buy one off of Amazon and get it shipped to one of their friends' houses. The day it arrived, they happened to be home alone, so they decided to play it that night in Nate's bedroom, right on top of his bed. Him and his brother started off by asking the board a bunch of dumb questions, like who are you, what's your name? They even asked the board which one of them was more handsome, and I mean, they're identical twins. Then Nate asked the board how he was going to die. This is something that you shouldn't ever ask the Ouija board. Well, the board spells out A-L-O-N-E. Nate was confused by this answer, so he looked up to look at his brother, and when he did, his brother was sitting there, but it wasn't his brother anymore. Like, it was him, but it didn't really look like him anymore. His brother was just sitting there with like a blank stare in his eyes. Nate started to yell out his name, but his brother just sat there like completely motionless. Then his brother begins to talk, but it wasn't like anything that made any sense. It was like a bunch of gibberish, but just really fast, really angry, and just spitting out all of this stuff. Now, mind you, Caden stutters, but in this sense, he wasn't stuttering at all. He was speaking extremely fast. Whatever language his brother was speaking was so fluent that it really scared Nate. He 100% believes that something possessed his brother, because that was not his brother at all. He could not believe what was happening, and he just kind of stood there frozen, just too afraid to even move. Then just how it started, his brother snapped out of it and looked at him and said, "Are you okay?" Nate's of course in shock and tells him, "What are you saying? Like, are you okay?" Caden of course has no recollection of what just happened. All he remembers is them sitting down to play with the board, and then now they're there. They ended up setting the board on fire after that took place, which is another no-no. Since that happened, Nate has continuously had nightmares every night. His brother was seemingly unaffected by the whole thing. Nate believes that since the board was played in his room on top of his bed, it affected him the most. So again, if you're having any thoughts or any ideas on playing with a Ouija board, don't.
This is why you should be scared of Ouija boards. A former Reddit user said that he used a Ouija board with results and let something into his home. He said that he has also been physically assaulted by this entity. He said that it started out with the feeling that he was being watched, doors closing and footsteps on the hardwood floor when he was home alone. All of this slowly progressed into being kept awake by something shaking the bed and pulling off the covers. He said that sometimes he even heard whispers of his name. The board would disappear for days on end and then show up in places that he never even put it. He became obsessed with it. Things got even worse though. He said that he began to see a black mass in the corner of the room and the silhouette of a man watching him from the doorway. One night, the paranormal activity escalated into a full-blown attack. He said that he had his hair pulled, fingers pricked, and that he was choked while being held down in bed. During the attack, he claims that this thing whispered into his ear in what could have only been Latin. After this event, he finally decided to have his house blessed, and fortunately, this entity hasn't shown back up. He said that he will never again play with one of those boards.
People ask me all the time why you shouldn't play with Ouija boards. I'm getting ready to tell you why and share a personal experience. When I was a kid, around 12, 13, 14 years old, oftentimes my cousin and I, we would spend the night at each other's house, and we went through a period where we liked to play with Ouija boards. And they were always homemade ones. We didn't actually have a real one. We would take a piece of cardboard, like from a box, and write everything, draw all the pictures. We had made us a Ouija board like we had a few times before, and we had played with it, and we're getting responses. I can't verify or say for sure if it was him moving it. I know I wasn't, but subconsciously or not, or spirit, I don't know. But we had played with it for a few hours that day, and nothing spooky happened. Later that night, we were in his bedroom, and it was well after dark, probably between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. We had a candle lit, and we were sitting on the bed. We had the Ouija board between us, and we started talking to a spirit who identified himself as Aaron. Aaron said he was a 6-year-old little boy, and he passed away in the 1920s, but he was currently in heaven. Now, there was nothing strange or spooky or no kind of off-putting feeling, anything like that. Everything was pretty normal. We were just asking yes or no questions, and he was spelling some things out. However, I noticed after a few minutes of talking to Aaron, the responses started to change. They were not making sense anymore, or just, you could just feel something was off. I began to wonder if we were still talking to Aaron. So I asked the question. I said, are we still talking to Aaron? And the planchette went to no. I said, who are we talking to? And every time I tell this story, I still get chills. It's spelled out G-O-D, God. I knew then, as much as I know now, that was not God speaking to us through a Ouija board. I remember my cousin and I locked eyes, our mouth dropped open, and we got rid of it. These things are evil, and they unlock doors, so stay away from them. You guys tell me your experiences in the comments. Have a great day. God bless.
Am I dealing or am I speaking with the devil right now through this Ouija board? It is not Brenda. You've just said it's Brenda. It's not Brenda, is it? Oh my God. There's actually handprints on the ceiling there, coming through. Wow. Right, guys. I'm absolutely crapping myself right now. I'm trying to take deep breaths. Who am I communicating? I'm losing my. Who am I communicating with through this board? D E My nose is bleeding right now. Oh my God. A demon, it's trying to say. I know I've got no tissue, but my nose is bleeding right now. The board is moving. Oh my God, right, that's it. I'm done. I'm off. I'm sorry, guys. The board is moving. Oh my God, right, that's it. I'm done. I'm off. I'm sorry, guys.
So here we are talking about one of the most controversial subjects in the paranormal, the Ouija board. It was patented in the year 1891 by a man named Elijah Bond. That guy. But talking boards have existed for centuries before this. During the Victorian era, spiritualism blew up. People actually thought ghosts were around us and that they could communicate with them. And clearly, they didn't have any EMF detectors or EVP recorders or REM pods or any of that good stuff. They used talking boards. So while a lot of people did believe that you could communicate with spirits, other people saw the marketing behind these boards. And as good business people do, they cashed in. Follow for part 2.
I have a Ouija board story time. If this is the type of content that you're into, feel free to follow along. I post a story every single day. The person who submitted this wishes to remain anonymous, so let's call her Sophia. When Sophia was about 14 years old, her sister, and a couple of their friends decided to start playing with the Ouija board. At first, they didn't think anything of it. They had actually come into contact with a 12-year-old boy who had drowned. Due to this, they of course felt sympathy for him. Everything was fine until one day Sophia decided not to play with the board. She actually had a phone call, so Sophia's sister and her friends decided to play while Sophia was in the next room on the phone. When out of nowhere, she hears screams coming from the room. Sophia, of course, runs into the room. When she runs into the room, she sees that no one has their hand on the planchette, but the planchette is moving around like crazy, spelling out Sophia over and over and over again. This, of course, freaked everybody out. Sophia's uncle is actually a pastor, so she called and told him about the board. At first, he was of course angry with her for playing with the board, but decided to pray with her over the phone and told her of a few prayers for her to recite anytime she felt afraid. After this, none of the girls wanted to go anywhere near the board. They actually put the board away without even saying goodbye. Although they stopped playing with it, it did not stop bothering them. At times, the board would just randomly fly out of the closet right into the girls anytime they would be in the room. They tried countless times to get rid of the board, but every time they got rid of it, it would just magically show up back at the house. Eventually, they did manage to get rid of the board by giving it to Sophia's uncle, who was a pastor. They're not exactly sure what he did to dispose of it, but after he took it, it never came back. So if you've ever thought about playing with a Ouija board, don't. Just don't. It's not worth it. And even if you get rid of it and you think you are cleansed of whatever you came into contact with, you're never fully cleansed. These things remember you. They remember your face, they remember your name, and even if they're dormant, they never stop following you.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely...
So I had a Ouija board in college and did some really bad things. Didn't say goodbye properly, played in a cemetery, slept with it underneath my bed. It ended up needing my house to get a priest. Here's the story.
Sometimes my plants would move like that and nothing was on, no AC, no window, nothing. Goosebumps. Things would move around my room.
Those videos you saw were because the board was in my room underneath my bed. This led to really bad nightmares, to my room smelling like rotten meat, to doors being slammed, to plants flying everywhere. It was just really bad. It got to the point where I needed an exorcist to the house and I needed to provide proof for the Vatican. The Vatican. Yeah, that was a good time. Ended up having a brain injury throughout all of that happening. You could check out my channel for that. And then ended up having to be back at my house and hauntings were still occurring. And then I found out I was pregnant and I got my house blessed beforehand. But yeah, it was not good at all. My friends would come in and not even knowing that there was a Ouija board underneath my bed, they would come in and be like, I don't feel a good vibe in here. Like some of them would even like be sitting on my bed and they'd see the door slam shut. Or like, I remember one time I had a girlfriend over and my crucifix in my room just fell to the floor. Just like crazy things like that. Got to the point where my girlfriend got possessed when we were playing. Now, we didn't know at the time how bad it was and how dangerous it was. We were younger. You know, now I'm a mom, so I would never do that. And I would never let my kid do that. But I I didn't know any better. And so we were playing, and this was like one of those times where we were playing for hours. And one of the girls like suffered from, you know, like depression, and was definitely the most, unfortunately, like the most vulnerable. And that's when demons like to attack, or the most vulnerable one of the group. And started spelling out her name on the board, and started spelling out her neck. Whose neck? We were asking whose neck, and they'd spell out her name, and they kept saying for us to look in the mirror. So they would like type mirror, 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 and it was like really creepy. And then it got to the point where she like could not breathe, and she was literally like couldn't breathe. And the craziest thing about this was that I knew something was wrong. Is I loved those two girls that I was with very much. They were like sisters to me. And when I saw this happening, instead of being like, oh my God, are you okay? The craziest thing happened. Instead, I wanted to slap her. I had anger. I was like, shut up, stop. And I remember saying that and not wanting to say it, but it just coming out of me. It was very weird. But like, I wasn't the one that was like really affected, but she, on the other hand, started really choking, and then like got out of it, whatever. And because she was choking or anything, we didn't say goodbye. We stopped. I like moved the board out of the way. I'm like, oh my God, she's choking, right? As anyone would do. And I think that's when it got really bad. And that's when we were like, okay, yeah, we need to get rid of this board, like ASAP. And so we brought it to a park to burn. And mind you, a Ouija board, this one was like the ones from Spirit Halloween, onto the ground. Now, I want to point out that look at that raw crystal, the big one, it's not even moved. I literally put it down the exact spot, and none of the other crystals are moved. They're all in the exact same spot. I was that board, and I covered it in lighter fluid, and it took 2.5 hours to burn. 2.5 hours to burn. Yeah, it was, I get chills. Yeah, it was really not cool. I have a lot more in-depth stories about things that happened to me while the board was underneath my bed, like scary stories that were super creepy, like, and things like that. So let me know if you want more of those. But yeah, that's my Ouija board story.